Hi, Professor Condon. Today I'm going to be explaining to you how the intrinsic larynx works using a model I made out of a sweet tea bottle and foam paper. So first off, I ran into a lot of mistakes that I made myself. Like, I put the model together before actually looking in depth to attachment, like kind of off of just visuals and how I saw them connecting. And I think if I were to do this again, I would definitely look into that first before constructing the model to understand what needs to be attached where. But I'm just going to explain to you how I made my model and how it kind of demonstrates what the intrinsic larynx does. So first, my partial trachea is these gray lines with little indents in them, if you can see. And I made them fully around, but then learned afterwards that it's only a C shape. So that's why there's kind of a little bit of messed up glue right there. But that the trachea is connected to the cricoid cartilage, which is the black right in here, by the cricotracheal ligament. And I didn't even know that was a thing before this project, but it connects the trachea to the cricoid cartilage. And it's also just starts right below the larynx and is the primary airway. So second, I'm going to talk about the cricoid cartilage, so the black right in here and right under in here. So it lies below the thyroid cartilage and sits on top of the first tracheal ring right here. You can see that. It is the main attachment point for many of the muscles that allow for closing and opening of the vocal cords. Basically, you can just see that it's kind of like a cuff shape right here that like skinnies down into a little V right there. So next I'm going to talk about the arytenoid cartilage, which is probably one of the most important things in the intrinsic larynx because all of the all of the muscles that control the true vocal folds connect to the arytenoids. So I'm going to set my model down really quick. So the arytenoids like move in a rocking motion like this that allows for the vocal folds to make the different pitches and sounds that they do. It sits on the edge of the cricoid right in here, if you can see that connection, and is an attachment place for the arytenoid muscles. Next, I'm going to talk about the creniculates that sit right on top of the arytenoid cartilage. They're just small nodules that form the apex of the arytenoids. They are situated in the posterior of the area epiglottis folds. Next, I'm going to talk about the epiglottis. So the epiglottis is like a leaf-shaped piece that covers up the airway when swallowing occurs. So it protects from food bolus from going into the intrinsic larynx and like sitting down in your little sinus things right in there. It stays open during breathing so that the air can go all the way through the trachea, down through here, into the two bronchial tubes, into the lungs, and then stays open on exhalation so that speech can occur, so that the air flows through the intrinsic larynx. Next I'm going to talk about the hyoid bone. So first off, you can see that my hyoid bone is actually attached to my thyroid cartilage, which isn't the case in real life, and that's only there for the looks of the project so that it can actually sit on something compared to me having to hold it. And it's considered a floating bone and is shaped like a horseshoe, and it floats between the chin and the thyroid cartilage. So basically, the hyoid actually moves upward and then forward to allow for swallowing, to allow space for the food bolus to go down through the esophagus. So now I'm going to talk about the thyroid cartilage, which is the dark pink. It is a structure that sits in front of the larynx and above the thyroid gland, so right down in here. It is also called the Adam's apple and houses the vocal cords in behind, if you can see. So, now I'm going to talk about the lateral cricoarytenoid, which is kind of hard to see, but it's the little white foam paper right in here. And it actually attaches to the arytenoid cartilage, and it changes the tension and the length of the vocal folds. Now the transverse arytenoid, which is this little purple piece back here, it is an adductor of the vocal folds, and it is on the posterior part of the larynx and closes the gap between the arytenoid cartilage. So the oblique arytenoid, which is the little cross on the back of the transverse arytenoid, it borders the cricoid cartilage. If you can see right there, the black is there and the red's right up in here. And it adducts the arytenoid cartilage and the aryepiglottic folds. So now the posterior cricoarytenoid, which are these two little blue guys right here, they're the only abductor in the larynx, which means that they open the true vocal folds instead of closing, and they attach to the cricoarytenoid cartilage on the black right here, and the arytenoid cartilage so that it can move and close them and open them. So now we're going to talk about the thyroarytenoid, which is one of my problem areas that I had after constructing the model. So if you can see right here, so that's the light pink, and it comes in and connects right over in here. So the thyroarytenoid is the thyromuscularis and the thyrovocalis together, and it makes the vocal folds. So its insertion is the arytenoid cartilage so that it can have all the movement to create pitch and sound and loudness. So it relaxes and shortens the vocal folds, but it also attaches at the anterior commissure, which I couldn't quite get in my model because of how the bottle was there for support. But I do know that it attaches behind or right above the epiglottis so that because the petiole of the epiglottis is so like right here, and then the anterior commissure is right here where the true vocal folds meet right there. Last I'm going to talk about the cricothyroid, which is right over in here. I also had a problem area right there because I did not realize that the cricothyroid muscle attached at the thyroid cartilage on each of the little nodules, so I had to extend this one over here to make sure it touched. So it attaches at the thyroid cartilage, like I just said, and the tip of the cricoid, so right down in here where the black meets. It tenses the vocal folds by tilting the thyroid forward, which I actually didn't know before this, but overall, I think that this project really helped me understand how all the muscles work in the intrinsic larynx. I didn't really understand that how important the arytenoid cartilage was because it just is the whole focal point of the intrinsic larynx and how the vocal folds can function the way that they do for us to talk. So thank you for watching me describe my model, and I hope you enjoyed it. Have a great day.